Week number 10. Here we go, everyone. Welcome to the WKYC.com High School Football Game of the Week Selection Show. Alongside Tyler Carey, I'm Dave DeNatale. Happy to have you with us here on Facebook Live and on YouTube. It is the final week of the regular season here in 2019.
You're making me sad.
I know, right?
That.
I know. It is. It's bittersweet because, it's like the playoffs are about here. But, man, where did the time go?
I know.
Where did the time go?
You think it just seems like just yesterday we were announcing the first game, which
Right.
was Highland-Wadsworth, and Wadsworth was one of our nominees this week, and it all just kind of comes full circle. Thankfully, we've still got a lot of great football left to go with the postseason coming up, but like you said, it is kind of bittersweet. Weather's getting a little bit colder as well as we get later in the year, so that kind of plays into it maybe. But, yeah, Week 10, big games coming up, and that's going to be the fun part.
That's going to be the fun part. Now, we came up with 3 games for this week that all had playoff implications with them. The aforementioned Wadsworth Grizzlies hosting Brecksville Broadview Heights. It's a huge, huge game in that particular region, in Region 6. Wadsworth was coming in at 4. Broadview Heights, Brecksville was 5th. So, that's a big game, certainly. Playing essentially it might be a home game play-in.
Exactly.
For the playoffs.
Yeah, they both already clinched, so as far as getting into that wouldn't have been as big, but positioning always means a lot, especially for that first home game.
We also went to Region 1 and had looked at the Battle of Medina County, the Medina Battling Bees. If the playoffs started today, they would be in with the number 7 seed against the 10th-seeded Brunswick Blue Devils.
Yeah, Brunswick definitely a great bounce-back year for them
Really
after
is.
winning only 1 game, I believe, last year. And this isn't necessarily a win-and-you're-in game. They don't control their own destiny, but we're going to assume that the winner of that game is going to make the playoffs, depending on what happens. But another great matchup. But
another great matchup. Those were the 2, and then of course there was 9-0. The Mayfield Wildcats having just a tremendous season against. And they're in Division 2, of course, Division 2, Region 5, against the defending state champs in Division 3, the Kinston Bombers at 8-1. By a landslide, by an overwhelming majority. That won this week's vote. So I will talk to everybody Friday night out at Bomber Stadium, and I couldn't be more excited. This is what it's about, man. I don't think for either team, a loss won't knock either team out of the playoffs.
No.
If
Kinston has not clinched yet.
Kinston is not in a winner or dies situation.
They do control their own destiny. If they win this game, and it's at Kinston, so you could assume that maybe they could be the favorite, even with Mayfield being undefeated. If they win this game, they're in the playoffs. If they lose, there's a good chance they could still make the playoffs, but they're not in. So they're going to need a little bit of help.
They're going to need, the Steubenville, Dovers, Ravennas of the world to stub their toe, especially looking at where they're at. Kinston's got like 21 points. The 19 is where Dover's at the bottom fringe. So.
Dover plays New Philly this week, so they're going to have a chance to move up in those rankings.
Yeah, to make a significant jump. So, it's not foregone, but it's going to add to it's a conference game. Mayfield's going for a clean sweep. There's so much on the line for this game, and Mayfield's been historically good, but the Wildcats are having a superb season, and they've taken everything that's come in their way this year. And got pushed to the limit by Riverside a couple weeks ago. Yet, they're undefeated, and they in a region that's loaded with the likes of Massillon and the likes of Hoban. Mayfield's the number 2 seed in Region 5. You have to give them credit. They've already clinched a home game. So again, Wildcats can lose this game Friday night. They're still going to be home. In Week 11, but they want to, you want to have the clean sweep. You want to go to the playoffs feeling real good about yourself, and you'd love to hand Kinston a loss.
Absolutely. You'd love to beat the team that went on to win the D3 state championship game last year and beat you along the way doing it. You know that all these players, it doesn't matter when they get to the playoffs or they're seeding or, they've already clinched a home game. They want to win every game because it's all about pride at that point and these little rivalries. Now, Mayfield, you mentioned a superb season. 5-5 last year. They did, or 5-6. They did make the playoffs. Barely sneaking in. We actually covered them in last year's Week 10 game as well when they lost to Riverside. And, it's been kind of that revenge tour for them where they beat Riverside, a team that beat them last year in that last game. Although
they've beaten. Here's the resume of the Wildcats, and I don't think we've given them enough credit this year for running the table. And shame on us, for not doing it. But this is their resume amongst their wins. Massillon Jackson, playoff team.
Very good
although
team.
They like just Jackson, playoff team. Very good team. Chardon, playoff team, very good team. Willoughby South, very good team.
Got a shot at the playoffs too.
So Riverside, team that has been a playoff team.
Even though Riverside's only 4-5 this year, to go there and win is not easy, and we all know that.
I mean, even beating Nordonia. I mean, that's a good. It was a good win for them. Nordonia's had their number in some past matchups, and now you can finish the slate 10-0. You can knock down Kinston, the defending state champs in Division III, and put yourself in going into the playoffs feeling really good about yourselves.
And that's the thing; they really haven't been challenged this year, other than that Riverside game. And that's kind of the same thing for Kenton. Other than that heartbreaking loss to Chardon for the second year in a row, they have not been challenged this year. So it really is that clash of the Titans feel you have in this game, and something's got to give.
Yeah. And here's the thing. If you're Mayfield, you're looking at this saying, okay, if I get to week 11, I want to be, I've clinched the home game, but man, I would love to have Warren Harding or Hoover or Play South again come to my place. I don't know if I really want to deal with Perry in the first week of the playoffs. This is you sit there and you say, well, what's on stake? And also, you want to be the outright conference champions. You want to be undisputed. Yes. You want to have that title all to yourself. So that's what's on the line for Mayfield as we look at this. Now on the flip side, TC. Kinston, we saw them in week 2. They dismantled Chagrin Falls. At that point, they were a well-oiled machine. They stumbled a little bit against Willoughby South. They were able to win that game and kind of pull away in the fourth quarter. And then, man, Chardon did it to them again.
And we shouldn't be discounting that because Chardon, as we have seen, is a very good team in their own right. So hats off to the Hilltoppers for being able to pull off that win for the second year in a row. But you're right. Kinston really just started off. We mentioned they really haven't been challenged, and that is true. But you're right. Ever since that South game in Week 6, they struggled a little bit with South, ended up pulling away and winning, losing to Chardon. They only beat Madison by 12, and even last week against Riverside, again, never easy to go into Riverside and win. You won 28-0.
Tough venue.
Maybe you got on track a little bit when you won by 4 touchdowns, but still, they haven't been this unstoppable force that they were early in the year.
And that goes, it's not easy. And I remember talking to Jeff Grubich and talking to John Tom Kufsick about this back in week 2, about changing the role of going from being the hunter to being the hunted, where you're going to get everybody's best game. You're the defending champs. You're not taking anybody by surprise. And it's not as easy. And they thought that meant they were mentally tough enough to handle it. And look, if they finish the season regular season 9-1, even if it's 8-2, they've had a good season.
Right.
But you just sit there because of everybody that's back and all the weapons they have and all that offensive punch that they have. You expect them to put 40 points per game on the board, and sometimes it's just not always realistic. So I'm real curious to see how the frames of mind of these two teams coming into this game, again, for Kinston, they can't sit there and act like they've already got into the playoffs. They control their own destiny, but that's a lot different from clinching a spot, which is where Mayfield's at. Matter of fact, Mayfield knows they're going to be home for the first week of the postseason. It's a different thing right now.
Well, and I think they know that. I think Jeff Grubich and his boys know that, okay, we're not in yet. We're not going to stop until we finish what we have to do, which technically means they're not going to stop until they get to that state championship game again. And they were so good at doing that last year. And I almost think that Chardon loss may be almost a bit of a wake-up call that they need, kind of like how it was last year where they're like, all right, now let's go get it done. And good news for them is if they do win this game, they're the 5th seed right now, but the way the points line up, if they do win this game.
That's a significant jump.
They are going to get a home game. They will clinch a home game if they win on Friday night. So it can all be rectified in a sense. If they go out and take care of business.
Because here's the difference. If you're Kinston, let's say you lose Friday night, you're still getting maybe as a 7th seed, let's just say, for argument's sake. You're 7th seed. You got to play Streetsboro at Streetsboro in week 1 of the playoffs. But as TC says, you get the win against Mayfield, a team that has a ton of second-level points in Division II. You get that win, you're going to be home. And that means either maybe getting a rematch with Chardon at home or getting St. Vincent St. Mary at home. It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I'm just saying it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but you'd rather have that than have to go on the road to play Streetsboro or go on the road to play Aurora, necessarily we go in. By the by, I'm calling it now. If that game comes on the playoff schedule, you very likely would probably see us out there because I think that would be a tremendous game. But that's kind of an overview of what's at stake here heading into Friday night, wrapping up the season. And, for Kinston, they've got to treat it as a play-in game. And for Mayfield, they want to finish out the slate undefeated, conference champs, undisputed, and head to Week 11 on a roll.
Absolutely. A few comments here before we get to our top five, our weekly top five. Dayrise says, too bad you didn't pick Medina's game. That rivalry is great. We agree, and we would have gone there, but the voters spoke.
That was on you.
Yes.
That was on you.
The people
that wasn't on me.
spoken.
That was on TC. That was on a vote.
Everybody got an equal opportunity, and they just happened to show up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And he says historically that matchup is huge, and we will be paying attention to that game for sure.
No question.
Tracy Keller says, so glad you picked Kinston. Thank you, Tracy. And
thank the 2,000 plus or 3,000 plus votes I think that Kinston and Mayfield got. But we're excited about it.
And
certainly.
Rich Gamber says Mayfield, baby. So I think we know who he's going to be rooting for come Friday night.
As I said, I think if I look at this 2019 season, I think we've overlooked Mayfield a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of excited that we're getting a chance to see them. By the way, yes, I played football. Yes, I played football. Is it Da Rai? I'm apologize if I'm not getting your name right, but or Day Rai. I'm sorry. Yes, I played football.
I did not. I will admit that right now. I was not good enough to play even for Twinsburg.
Yeah.
Although they were good when I was there, so it would have been more of a challenge. But no, I did not play football. Dino did.
Yeah, I did. But that's.
I do love the game.
We love the game. We know the game. We follow the game. We follow the teams around Northeast Ohio very, very closely, and it's one of the things we both. Really, everybody in our sports department here at 3 News has a passion for high school football, but TC and I certainly, and it's one of the things that we enjoy about our jobs. Okay, we also enjoy, in addition to letting you know where we're going to be Friday, revealing our 3 News top 5 as voted by the two of us, along with Nick Camino, David Kinder, Pat Chiesa, and everybody else who wants to get a vote in there on our staff.
I was honored to receive a vote this year for the first time since I
started
working at 3 News. Now, Dino, not much of a reveal because it is the same top 5 as we've had the last few weeks. But, there's the ancillary stuff. There's the meat of it all that we have to get into. And that starts with, of course, the unanimous number 1, the Mentor Cardinals. Boy, what a win that was over Euclid.
I just sit there and go, they're making it look easy.
Yeah.
The Greater Cleveland Conference should not be this easy.
No.
And they just took apart everybody. They get Strongsville this week.
They have not given up more than 7 points in any of their GCC games. It's incredible. And Euclid, we know, is a team that has been able to beat Mentor in the past. Solon beat them last year, too. And they've just run roughshod over all of them. It's amazing.
Yeah. Philip says, by the way, there's one game that matters this week, and it comes as we get to
we'll be getting to that in a second.
McKinley, Massillon.
Yes.
I listen, one of these years, we're going to do that game. I'm telling you.
Game is on a Saturday
game's
afternoon.
on a Saturday. One of these years, we're going to do that game.
I may actually go to that just as a fan.
I don't
just
blame
to
you.
check it out. But we'll get to that in a second. Mentor in first in their game against Euclid, Brian Trouble, 106 yards on 7 carries and 2 touchdowns. Ian Kipp.
What did he play? You play by a quarter and a half, maybe?
Well, JV players did make it into the game, which is astonishing for the Euclid game. They get Strongsville this week. Mentor has never gone 10-0, which is incredible to me. And with all the great coaches and players they've had. Now, this is what we pay attention to with Mentor every week. The national rankings. They're first in the state AP poll. They're first or second in the Midwest. Nationally. USA Today, they remain 16th. National Prep poll, they move up to 13th. Max Prep's Excellent 25, 13th, they stand pat. High School Football America, they're 12th. Max Prep's Freeman rankings, they are back up to 8th, tying their highest spot all year in that poll. So, again, I don't know if they can end up getting to that number 1 spot. Modern Day just beat St. John Bosco. That was that 1 versus 2 matchup we mentioned last week. So we'll see. But again, if you run the table in D1 in Ohio, you're at least going to be in the conversation.
Which you have to be. And the way they've beaten up I mean, they survived their tough games with St. Ignatius and St. Edward. And once they got into conference play, I mean, they have just absolutely destroyed all comers. And, I mean, teams like Brunswick and Euclid and Solon, Medina, were all having good years. They all ran into the buzzsaw that's the Cardinals.
Absolutely.
And it's unfortunately the way things have gone for the rest of the conference this year. The aforementioned Massillon Tigers, who get McKinley at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium Saturday afternoon. Number 2.
Yes, this is going to be – they've been number 2, it seems, pretty much all year, and they've earned it, being 9-0. Now, they beat Louisville 24-0 over the weekend, or last Friday night. They only led 7-0 at halftime, but they ended up pulling away. One big note here, though. Aiden Longwell, their starting quarterback, all-time leading passer, had to leave that game with an injury, and Coach Nate Moore would not really specify on his exact condition or what happened to him. Now, he was on our friend Kenny Rota's podcast yesterday, and he did say Aiden Longwell did practice on Tuesday, and they believe he'll be ready to go on Saturday, but again, still not certain there.
Yeah,
and that would be a tough blow for Massillon.
Because you don't want to miss the rivalry game. I mean, Philip is talking about it here, and I agree. I mean, it is the rivalry game in all of Ohio. You don't want to miss that, but at the same time, you also want to get healthy for the postseason.
Absolutely.
So,
and they've already clinched a home game, so I'm not. Look, obviously, you want to beat McKinley. I am not discounting that game, but it's like, okay, I think you'd almost. We know we're going to have a home game anyway. Let's not push it.
Right.
We want him there. If he's healthy, great, but don't force it.
Don't force it.
The good news is that Zach Catrone, his backup, did come in against Louisville and actually played pretty well.
He's taken some reps this year. And I remember seeing him towards the tail end of the Barberton game a couple weeks ago when we were down there, and I thought he looked good. So, you know, he could be a guy that could come in and, yeah, I'm not saying he can lead you to a win, you know, as a sophomore against McKinley in the rivalry game, but, you know, he's the guy I think Nate Moore would have confidence in. Hey, look, go in there and, you know, get the ball to Keys and let's you know, go and move the offense down the field. I think they would do that if they needed to.
9-0 Massillon against 8-1 McKinley. They actually beat Perry this past weekend, which they haven't done for a few years. Very nice win for them. So, Clash of the Titans, as we've said.
Yeah, McKinley's only loss this year was to Euclid.
By 1 point.
Right.
In which they nearly came back and won that game. So, we're all going to have our eyes on that one. Okay, number 3, one of the teams that Menor did beat this year, and that was their only loss, this team, St. Edward, checks in at number 3. St. Edward beat Archbishop Moeller, who's really struggled this year. They're only 1-8. They beat him 34-7. In the rain, Joey Fermani had 142 yards and a touchdown. They are second in the AP poll. They have, as we mentioned, started to move up in those national rankings a little bit, kind of in the low teens. So that Menor loss hurts them a little bit in that regard. But obviously they're thinking about the state championship, and they're going to finish up their season with National Christian Academy, a 6-2 team out of Maryland. Bit of a smaller school.
Yeah, it's so weird they're not finishing with St. Ignatius.
I know. We know what. By the way, St. Ignatius, and we've talked about this,
not going to make the playoffs.
Officially eliminated from playoff contention after losing to St. Xavier on Saturday. A very good St. Xavier team. Look, St. Ignatius played a brutal schedule this year, and I don't think Chuck Kyle would have it any other way. I think he wants his guys to be playing the best of the best. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't, but that loss to Football North up from Ontario is really going to hurt them.
Yeah,
and it's going to haunt them forever.
Looking back, that's going to be the one, and I'm sure they would say, you know, they also had, they had an opportunity to, they had beaten Hoban, they had the opportunity to beat Menor earlier in the year. They lost by 4 points to St. Edward. Yep. A lot of close losses.
7-3 in that game. And it's a shame because we know this team is good because they beat Hoban.
Right.
So we know what they're capable of, and it is a shame that they're not going to be in the postseason. But I will say this, the last time that they missed the postseason, very next year, they won a state championship.
I was going to say, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if St. Ignatius comes back next season on an absolute tear.
No doubt. All right, number 4, the team that Ignatius beat earlier this year, Archbishop Hoban. Now, they beat Walsh Jesuit 42-21. They were actually down 14-0 after the first quarter.
I don't know what it is. Last 2 weeks, Hoban and Massillon both have sputtered coming out of the gate. And some of it is you sit there and you go, it's the pressure of being undefeated. And in Hoban's case, not undefeated, but you're Hoban. You're the 3-time defending state champ.
4-time.
Or 4-time, that's right. You're the 4-time defending state champ. So you have the target on your back, and it's not easy.
And is it just that mentality, too, of, all right, let's just get to the playoffs.
Let's just get to the playoffs.
Let's get this over with.
But we've noticed that with both Massillon and Hoban. They've stumbled out of the gate a little bit. in the last couple of weeks.
Right. Now, in the end, they did win the game. They pulled away. They won by 3 touchdowns. Victor Dawson, 2 more touchdowns in the game. They're third in the D2 AP poll. They get NDCL this week. Yeah. Boy, NDCL, they were a team that we saw against Benedictine that still had some playoff aspirations at that point. I don't think they've won since.
No, but they've still. It's interesting because of the way that field, that crowd. It's a small venue up in the valley. It's not an easy place to win. Benedictine struggled there when we were over there a few weeks ago before they finally came back and won that game.
Right.
So, I mean, I would expect Hoban to win, but I wouldn't be shocked if you tell me after the first quarter it's like 7-7 or 14-14 or something like that. It may take Hoban a little bit to clear themselves from NDCL and start thinking about the playoffs.
And we'll certainly keep you updated on that game on Friday. Finally, number 5, the Avon Eagles. They got a very, very nice win over Homestead Falls. Now, we were wondering which Old Falls team was going to show up. The team that...
The good one.
Yeah, the good one.
The good one.
Or the team that lost to Midview, who is now 4-5, which I believe they may have lost to Berea Mid-Park.
I think they did.
Just stunning to me how Old Falls was able to lose that game, but still a very nice team. They're still going to the playoffs. And look, in fairness, they showed up. They showed up and they gave Avon a very tough game. In the end, the Eagles were just a little bit too much. Very, very... I really give a lot of credit to what Avon has done this year with the amount of injuries that they've had. Devon Hunter, I'm not sure how you say that name, forgive me, 188 yards and 3 touchdowns in a backup role with their starting running back already being down with an injury. They've shown that they can just plug the next guy in and they're still going to be just as good.
Mike Elder is a superb coach. And, I mean, they finished this up, and, I mean, I would expect them to beat Amherst Friday night.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a win-in-your-in situation, by the way, for Amherst.
10-0 season, though, for the Eagles going into and I think they feel pretty good about Region 6. They wouldn't have to play Hoban or Massillon until the state semis. Avon should feel good about themselves right now. And the aforementioned Homestead Falls Bulldogs, they've got to deal with Avon Lake. And Avon Lake is, I think right now, I mean, Avon is tops because they beat Avon Lake, but I think Avon Lake is playing better than anybody in that Region 6 right now.
And they only beat them by a point.
Correct.
Remember that. I would love to see that. They're on a collision course, I would think, for that rematch in that regional final. I'm not saying Avon Lake would win that game, but I may pick them if, assuming that is the matchup, I might pick them to beat Avon right now because of how good they look.
The way they played, I think I would too. I might as well. And they might play that game like at the newly refurbished Ely Stadium or something like that, where somewhere that would be relatively close for the two teams. That would make that fun.
Absolutely. Some of the teams, or some of the other notes, obviously Mayfield unbeaten. We've mentioned that. Yeah. They just missed the cut right there, but that's very good. Kenton, McKinley, their great win over Perry. I mentioned that earlier. The new Philly-Dover game. Now, that was a game that, let's be honest, we would have considered going to. The problem is to Dover from this station is about an hour and 26 minutes away.
Yeah.
So I'm very sorry. Maybe if they come a little bit closer in the playoffs, we'll think about it.
I was going to say, because they play in that Region 9, it's possible we might see them.
Yes.
And speaking of Region 9, hats off to Aurora.
Oh,
They played a superb football game Friday night against Revere, and Bob Mahal, they're watching that Aurora team. They are on a mission, and people are saying, a lot of people are saying to me, boy, we didn't expect that the Greenmen would be this good this soon, that maybe they were a year ahead of schedule. Well,
this might be as good as I've ever seen them.
It's the best Greenmen defense I've seen in the last 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
So, they probably won't be the number 1 seed going into the playoffs in Region 9, but I think they're playing as well as any team, along with Streetsboro and that aforementioned New Philadelphia squad of anyone in Region 9. And whoever comes out of that region, I'm telling you right now, I think will probably be your state champion.
I do want to note one more game before we get back to, because I know we're running out of time here. Orville, defending D5 state champion, they went down to Manchester this past week. Very big upset for New Franklin Manchester. Obviously, a very good program down there in the Akron area.
We considered that game as a possible game of the week.
Yeah, we did.
Congrats to Manchester. That's I know one person, Sarah Schuckman, I believe, is a Manchester graduate.
Oh, really?
I got to double check, but I'm pretty sure she is.
I'll have to go congratulate her before she goes on What's Next coming up at 6 o'clock. But a good win for the Panthers there. Orville still in the playoffs. Manchester clinching a playoff spot with that win. But, maybe that's that wake-up call that Orville needed to maybe go back and make that run.
The Kinston, we'll call it the Kinston-Chardon effect.
Unfortunately, they're going to have to be dealing with Kirtland now in D5, and Kirtland
Good
has
luck with
just...
that. Kirtland's Tiger Laverty's team is having a great year. I mean, that's the thing. If you look at each of the 7 regions, it's kind of a wrap-up. And by the way, from here on in, we unfortunately take the democracy out of picking our postseason games. We will be doing it here, and but we're still going to do these shows on Wednesday. We'll do a playoff preview show every Wednesday from now until the state championships. Folks, I'm going to tell you this. I think it is entirely possible in each of the 7 regions you could have a team from Northeast Ohio play for a state championship. I mean, Division I, you think, just put this in the back of your mind, Menor, St. Edward. Division II, you think Massillon, Holben, Avon. Maybe Avon Lake.
Yes.
Division III, Aurora, Kinston,
New Philly,
Streetsboro, Chardon. Division IV,
Perry's had a great year.
Division IV, Perry. Division V,
Kirtland and Orville.
Division VI, Mogador.
Yep.
Division VII, Cuyahoga Heights. It's going to be a fun ride in the month of November.
And 5 local state champions last year. I'm not sure if they can top that.
I don't know if they can top that, but
they're going to have a shot. That's for sure.
It's going to be, no matter what division your favorite team is in, I'm telling you this, I think Northeast Ohio's got a shot to represent in all of them when we get to Kenton at the end of the month. All right, my friend. 10 shows in, 10 shows go. Again, Friday night, our WKYC.com game of the week for Week 10 will be the undefeated Mayfield Wildcats at the Kinston Bombers. We will see you from Bomber Stadium starting at about 6:50. I cannot wait. It's going to be a great matchup, a great kind of an hors d'oeuvre, if you will, to get you into the playoffs. I mean, this is going to feel like a playoff game, so hope you can join us for that. TC, it's always a pleasure, my friend.
Always a pleasure. I cannot wait for the playoffs, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Get them here, baby. Get them here. All right, for Tyler Carey, I'm Dave DeNatale. Thanks for watching our WKYC.com High School Football Game of the Week selection show here on 3 News Facebook Live and also on YouTube.